Do we have TextGate 2.0? Remember all those podcasts we did about Mayor of Seattle during Chop and Chaz and the fire chief and the chief of police? They all lost their text messages. I don't know what happened. I dropped my phone in Puget Sound and it didn't work. Well, we've got another issue with over 6,400 missing texts down in Portland from 2017 through 2021. Coincidentally, there was a lot of the racial protests and Portland was on fire during that same time, right? Had Antifa and Black Lives Matter just doing their thing, mostly peacefully. What's the dealio with the missing texts? That's what we're going to jump into today. Let's get going. Here we go. Thousands of Portland mayor texts gone from public record. Are they gone? Did they just disappear? Where did they go to? You know, it's like when somebody says, oh, I'm sorry you lost a relative. And you're like, I didn't lose them. They died. It's like, where did the texts go to? Well, they just didn't get recorded. And how did that happen? Because public officials, there's laws about record keeping, right? And somehow Seattle and Portland seem to be the worst at keeping records right now. Why is that? Well, if you've got information that people are requesting, and a lot of this came from activists requesting information on, hey, what's going on? What is the mayor doing? And they have a right to do that. They have a right to ask for these, hey, what's going on? Where's the record of the text? And so few of these have come back with, all right, here you go. Here they are. That people are like, where are all of these texts? We know that they're tweeting like a mad people, but nothing's happening. Thousands of text messages from Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler's city-issued iPhone and the phones of other top officials are missing from the public record, including texts that he sent after former President Donald Trump directed federal agents to the city to quell nightly racial justice protests. That's when I went down to Portland. That's right when I went down. I'm like, this is a bunch of nonsense. People are screaming about Trump sending federal officers there, federal agents there. And there's already a bunch of federal agents there. And then everybody was all up in arms that, unmarked cars and guys without, their name tags on their uniform are just running around and they're just scooping people off the street and they're just interrogating them. I don't know what they're doing to them, but they're interrogating them. Bunch of nonsense. So I went down and covered what was happening there during this time period. Oregon Public Broadcasting reports that the city uses specialized software to capture text messaging on city-issued phones so they can be retained for public record requests. But the software can't capture encrypted messages using Apple's iMessage service. So here's the deal. If you're a city employee, if you're a cop, if you're whatever for the city of Portland, they give you an iPhone, right? And then they also tell you, hey, due to record keeping, you can't have your iMessages on and you can't sync to iTunes. No go. Leave those off and you sign something saying, yep, you understand, you get the deal. Because when iMessaging is on, toggle switch is on your iPhone, or you sync to iTunes, the record keeping gets messed up. Because on the text issue thing, if you have the button toggled off for iMessages, then it shows up as just a plain text. And that's how the city of Portland's record keeping kicks in, and it automatically downloads those. If you're on iMessaging, if you're using iMessaging like Mayor Ted did for over 6,400 messages, then nothing gets recorded. Interesting. Yeah. Well, anyway, and people in these positions know that by law, they have to follow the protocol of how messages get recorded. Mayor Ted, not so much. How does that work? At least Mayor Ted is, you can blame a little bit of technology. Here in Seattle, I dropped my phone in the water. How many elected, highly ranking officials can you have that drop their phone in the water? Apparently in Seattle, that kind of excuse is pretty commonplace. I don't know. Technology. That's what I think a lot of this is. I'm not really sure. I didn't do it on purpose. Okay. Oregon Public Broadcasting investigation found that the mayor and his staff sent and received thousands of iMessage texts between 2017 and 2021, and those messages were not captured and therefore not included in key public records requests about the protests, policing, and other issues. All we want to know is, hey, what happened? What was going on there? And the fact that Portland and Seattle, I mean, the list of people on Seattle was astounding. You got the mayor, you got Chief Carmen Best at the time, you got Mayor Harold Scoggins. Carmen Best was the police chief. Scoggins is the fire chief, and a bunch of other, everybody directly under them. There's like 6 or 7 people that lost their text messages. Where'd they go? We don't really know. Users can turn off iMessage off and instead send texts outside of Apple's proprietary system by toggling a button in the iPhone settings. Wheeler and other city officials signed a document saying they understood they must toggle iMessage to the off position, and Wheeler was repeatedly reminded of that, Oregon Public Broadcasting reports indicated. I had word from former retired police officer in Portland saying, hey, we all had to do that. We all had to do that. That's part of the job. It's part of record keeping in Portland and in a lot of these police, stations or anybody in public position where record keeping is part of the law. It's part of their job description. This is the deal. So it's my understanding that Portland police, they sign something. They also say, hey, any updates to your operating system on your phone has to be done within the secured Wi-Fi of, say, the police station or wherever you've got that secured Wi-Fi, because it's all integrated, right? 10 months after Wheeler signed the form, iMessage was turned on the mayor's iPhone, the outlet reported. The mayor then received over 6,400 iMessages between January 2019 and September 2021, according to a spreadsheet of all Wheeler's texts from that period requested by Oregon Public Broadcasting. Wheeler declined to comment to Oregon Public Broadcasting. Yeah, not so much. We're just going to let that story fly. I'm just going to ignore it. I mean, nothing to see here. It's all good. Oops. His spokesman, Cody Bauman, said in an email to the Associated Press on Tuesday that the mayor never manually turned on iMessage. It's a lot of air quotes for those of you on the podcast part. Never manually turned on iMessage. All right. But it was your job to turn it off. It was your job to turn it off. So whether you never manually turned it on, you do a reset on that phone, I bet you Apple goes to iMessage, right? It's your job, and you signed paperwork stating you would turn iMessage off. This is a known quantity. This isn't an oops. This is what the deal was. And to me, what you've got going on here is shenanigans in Portland, and probably illegal ones. It seems that way. Is anything going to come of this? No, nothing. It's going to be one of those things where if this were to happen to a regular police officer, they would probably have disciplinary actions taken against them, right? Maybe they'd have to, go sit in a corner for a week and suck on their thumb, just crazy stuff like this. Whereas somebody like the mayor who's making decisions for all those police officers, for all those firemen and, everything kind of going on as far as being mayor of the town, while he's out there shoulder to shoulder with Antifa, burning the city down. I shouldn't say he's burning the city down, but it was definitely on fire during this period, right? Both literally and figuratively. Portland was on fire. Antifa was trying to burn up federal buildings, and that's part of why Trump sent, reinforcements there. Oregon Public Broadcasting obtained the spreadsheet of the missing texts after it discovered city attorneys concerned about non-compliance, used special software in late 2021 to export all the content on the mayor's phone. But iMessages sent on Wheeler's previous city-issued phones are lost forever. Uh-oh, where'd they go? Don't really know. Not recorded. This is nuts. Two of the bigger cities that had this craziness go on, summer of 2020, they're in the exact same spot. And what's the bottom line here? Bottom line is shenanigans went on from a top-down city official standpoint, and they want to cover them up. They want to hide them. The odds of this happening, I talked about the odds of this happening within 6 or 7 highly ranked, top-ranked officials in Seattle, like the mayor, like the chief of police, like the chief of the fire department, and a handful of people underneath them. The odds of them all having their phones losing their messaging are slim to none. And by slim, I mean really slim. Just think about the odds of that. Think about how many folks do you know in your life that have lost all their text messages? And you're probably going to say, none, doesn't happen. Senior Deputy City Attorney Jennifer Johnston told Oregon Public Broadcasting that all messages on iPhone are essentially iMessage. What? All right. So, yeah. It's your job. Part of your job as an official within this system is to toggle that switch off. That's what I kind of rest my case on, is it was your job to do that. You can't complain. You can't claim technology. You knew what the deal was. You signed paperwork. Everybody knows this. The lost messages include from several former city commissioners and Wheeler's former police advisor, Robert King. They all used iMessage, even though they weren't supposed to, and left before Portland realized the problem. That is interesting. Scooted out the door before the iMessage text gate happened, right? We're not even going to have a text gate, are we? This is just going to be one of those things where I made a mistake and I'm going to try and do better next time. We've got a lot of work to do on this issue and we need to just really move forward and kind of, make the system better. And we need greater accountability. We need greater transparency. We need to rethink. We need to reimagine. Just a bunch of white noise, right? Just wah, wah, wah. Charlie Brown's parents in the background. Wah, wah, wah. King advised the mayor on the racial justice protests, 2 fatal police shootings and clashes between far-right and far-left groups during the time in question. The city received a dozen fruitless public records requests seeking King's text. I love the word fruitless. What happened? No fruit. Didn't bear any fruit. From 2018 to 2021, the mayor's office alone received over 130 requests for text messages from both press and constituents. Hey, what's the deal? What's going on? What's happening? Yeah, we're going to give you this fruitless request back. For example, the city omitted 1,300 relevant texts spanning nearly every pivotal protest moment after a public records request by a local activist group because they had been sent in iMessage, Oregon Public Broadcasting reported. Keep going back to this damn iMessage. If we know that it's such an issue with iPhones turning back on their iMessages, maybe you should switch to Android. Yeah. What about that? Stick all city employees on Android. How about that? Yeah, that's never going to work. People don't like Android. I love Android. I think it's great because I don't want to have an iPhone. I don't want to be part of Apple. I love my iPad mini, but beyond that, yeah, you can have your iPhones. Good for you. I don't see that there's any way that this isn't a violation of law, said Ginger McCall, Oregon's first ever public records advocate, who now works at a progressive advocacy group in Washington, D.C. They clearly didn't fulfill their legal obligation. That's a nice way of putting it. So we know that public records, rules and laws have been violated here. It's a known thing. Is anything going to come of it? No, it's not. And again, had this been somebody else in a position where this is really important, but they didn't have the pull of the people that are claiming, I never turned on my iMessaging, people would be hung out to dry. They just would. That's how this goes. By 2021, staff with the city's technology bureau were sending increasingly frantic emails about the mayor's conduct. Hey, the mayor's got his iMessaging sent on and, can't do that. I mean, how many times does that have to go out before people are like, hey, you got to switch your iMessaging off? No can do. Because you put all these things together and you're kind of like, what happened here? Well, clearly they're communicating stuff that they don't want the public to know about. And so they're going to use iMessaging because they know, hey, that stuff doesn't get recorded. Interesting. They wrote that he was re-enabling iMessage every time. This is the city's technology bureau. They wrote that he was re-enabling iMessage every time. Every single time. So somebody knew what the mayor was doing, and they're like, hey, the mayor, he's re-enabling that, which means it won't get recorded. What's the deal? This is the city's technology bureau. Isn't that wild? Huh. Interesting. And what's going to happen? Is the mayor going to, are they going to find his texts? No, they're gone. They're not recorded. Is the mayor going to have to go sit in the corner and suck his thumb? No. He can barely even, figure out what he's got going on now. I mean, homeless encampments, 22,000 units of housing, 1,500 new beds, all kinds of stuff with no real way of paying for it, no plan to pay for it. Mayor's got a lot of stuff going on. Text messaging, he's not going to be so worked up about that. So even though he had been told repeatedly that doing so made the automatic text archiving impossible, this is the city's technology bureau. Maybe we need an oversight committee for the city's technology bureau. Moving forward, of course, got to forget all that stuff in the past because, let bygones be bygones. It seems what we're doing. Bowman, Wheeler's spokesman, said Tuesday that while city staff initially thought Wheeler disabled iMessage himself, they now know that's not the case. How do they know that's not the case? Do they have a sworn affidavit from Mayor Ted saying he didn't do it? It doesn't really matter, does it? They can claim, well, they know that's not the case. Listen to this part. This is good. iMessage could have been turned on the mayor's phone without his knowledge when he got a new phone, when he changed his SIM card. That does not, it doesn't mean anything. You've signed paperwork stating, here's what you're going to do. You get a new phone, you got to make sure that switch is toggled off. Period. Right? Period. It's part of your job, record keeping, period. So it doesn't matter if it could have been turned off. Got a new phone. And that's what would happen with a police officer. So this happened to a police officer. Well, it could have got turned on when I got that new SIM card. It's like, okay, yeah, but then it's your responsibility. And you know what that police officer would say is, you're right. It is my responsibility. It's part of my job. I didn't do part of my job. Now, Mayor Ted isn't going to get that. Mayor Ted's going to get, well, it could have happened this way. It's not his fault. He's okay. Or when he synced his work phone to iTunes, which you are told not to do. Not to do. Or when he sent a message to a non-city employee who did use iMessage, Bowman said. That part, I would need to get confirmation on that part. Because if Mayor Ted's phone is set off on the iMessage, then the city system should record whatever text message he sent to them. And if he's getting inbound text messaging and he's got iMessaging off, doesn't matter who it's coming from, it's going to end up as just a generic text, right, on his iPhone. And so from that standpoint, this last sentence to me is just let's just lob this one and see if they notice. Because, new phone, new SIM. Did Mayor Ted have a new phone during this time period? We don't know. And if he did, doesn't he have a tech guy set it up for him? Most city employees do. You go to tech and they give you a new phone and they do all the settings, especially the mayor. So mayor's getting a hot new phone and it's not set up correctly. Yeah, I don't know. What the city did not realize until very recently was all the ways that iMessage could unintentionally and inadvertently be turned on when using the Apple device. He said in an email to the AP, all right, so lawyer, say this goes to, some kind of criminal action and a lawyer is defending their client who may or may not have unintentionally and inadvertently be turned on when using the Apple device. Do you think that's much of a defense? No. You know why? Because it's not. Because your responsibility, part of your job, have that damn thing ticked off, right? Johnson, Portland's senior deputy city attorney, said she is confident the city operated in good faith. I'm sure she is. Yeah. What I understand, the law requires that we perform a reasonable search, she said. And our search was reasonable based on what we knew at the time. All right. So this becomes a non-issue. But I think it's one more really good example of there was shenanigans going on during all this time period, and there's clearly a cover-up of what really went down. There's clearly a cover-up. There's some kind of cover-up. Maybe the optics, maybe nothing really nefarious happened, but the optics just don't look good on how things went down. I know the whole deal with the mayor and the TextGate in Seattle. Those are involved with a whole bunch of lawsuits. There are no lawsuits in Portland that I'm aware of, but the mayor's in hot water because he didn't do what he was supposed to do record keeping wise, but he's not going to probably suffer any consequences. I mean, is he going to go to, public record keeping, school and, be reprimanded for his public record keeping? Probably not. He's basically just stated, I don't know what happened. It turned on itself. It could have happened here, and here. And, you get a hall pass. I feel like my generation, and Mayor Ted's quite a bit younger than I am, but a lot of these people, when they're older, they're like, I don't understand the technology. Yeah, you do. And you signed paperwork saying you did. So that's not an excuse. Old people, we use this as an excuse, right? I don't know how to work that. It's because you don't want to. All right. You could figure it out if you really wanted to. And the younger generation knows that, but they're going to kind of give you a hall pass, give us a hall pass, because, we've lived a lot longer than them. And maybe we're paying a bunch of their bills, and we've paved the way for a lot of this stuff to happen. So us kind of sidestepping the whole technology issue, we kind of get a hall pass there. But when it's as important as this is with what happened in Portland, I mean, the shenanigans down there were pretty great, right? Portland is still dealing with that. Portland is still paying the price for that. I was watching a news story this morning on a new brewery that's opening up in Portland, husband-wife team, fairly well-known chef. He'd been on some chef show, and his wife is a well-known beer brewer, whatever that term is. Brewery person, not really sure. They have a term for that, right? I don't know what it is. I like drinking beer, though. Don't get me wrong. And I'm sure their beer is delicious. But even they were saying, hey, yeah, this other brewery just went down. They just closed down. And downtown Portland has had a really hard time coming back. And these are people opening up a new business in downtown Portland. Everybody's aware that downtown Portland is on the serious struggle bus. Nike just closed down one of their community stores that'd been there 38 years. I think that's in Northeast Portland because of shoplifting and the crazy shenanigans that are ongoing in Portland that make it so people don't want to go to downtown Portland. So you got all this stuff going on, and a lot of it points to this point in time where you've got some pretty wild stuff going on. You got Trump calling out the mayor of Portland saying, hey, you need some help there, buddy? We're going to send some folks there unless you, get your city in line. And so, the mayor and people around him and the tech department are, all kind of part of this, which is, don't know what happened to the messages. They're miraculously gone. Just like Seattle. Don't know what happened. They're just gone. We'll never know what was in those text messages. I mean, we tried to kind of put them all back together, and we tried to get them off of other people's phones that the mayor of Seattle sent them to. We did our best there, but, thousands and thousands are still missing. Literally, that's what happened. So this is some wild stuff. Will anything come of it? Probably not. But if it does, I'll cover it for you right here on News for Reasonable People. Thanks for being here. We'll catch up soon. Talk then. Bye for now.